up? It's Spartacus here, and today I am back for the last Blackrock Mountain card preview. The rest of the cards were revealed today, so I'm going to talk about what I think about them. There's a lot of cool cards in here, and we can finally see if this dragon deck might actually work out. And it looks like for a few classes, that might just be possible. There are a lot of very powerful dragon-type cards, so they also showed some gameplay footage, like they were playing with decks made with a lot of these cards, and they looked pretty viable. Just from that, I will give my opinion on these cards and how, in terms of how the game is today as well. And let's just dive right into it with the first one, Rogue card, a uncommon spell called Gang Up. It's 2 mana, and it reads choose a minion, shuffle 3 copies of it into your deck. So when it says choose a minion, you have to assume that means a minion on the board. But it doesn't mean like a minion of your own. So if they have a Mal'Ganis out, you can shuffle 3 copies of a Mal'Ganis into your rogue deck. Pretty cool card. The thing about it is it's very slow. So it's 2 mana for basically not doing anything on that turn. It does activate some of the things that rogues like to play, like Gadgetzan Auctioneer and Violet Teacher. And it can work as the first half of a combo, so you use this to combo out something else. The interesting part, right now we have Oil Rogue, and I mean, there are a few things that you might want more copies of in your deck. Oil Rogue does run through its deck fairly quickly, so sometimes it might be nice to get a couple more SI7s. And there are like a few slots that flip around in Rogue, so maybe people will try this out in there, and we'll see if it works. But right now, it kind of looks a little bit too slow for that. It does give the deck a little bit more longevity, though, because a lot of the times as a rogue, you will draw through your whole deck. So this way, you get 3 extra cards. You essentially have a 33 card deck, which can be really powerful. But those 3 cards only matter if you reach the bottom of your deck, basically. If not, then they don't really matter that much unless it's like a Sylvanas or something, like a really unique, powerful minion that you can only have one of in your deck. So I'm skeptical as to whether it'll work, but it's definitely worth trying out. And maybe it'll help with, people like to try out Control Rogue, and there's a possibility Control Rogue could work at some point, and this card will probably be in that deck, and it might help out. So, cool card. In Arena, it's less good because you don't draw through your whole deck typically in Arena. So, it is good in that you can choose a powerful minion and put it in your deck. The problem is that a lot of the time you like to use all your mana in Arena, unless it's the late game, but you don't actually draw these cards, you just shuffle them into your deck. So unless like you see a legendary in Arena, it's not actually going to be very good. It's simply just throwing away 2 mana a lot of the time. So in Arena, probably a fairly poor card. And in Constructed, you have to be able to draw through your whole deck in order for this card to actually work. Okay, second one, Warlock rare spell, Demon Wrath, 3 mana, deal 2 damage to all non-demon minions. So this spell is probably not going to work. The problem with the spell is that right now we do have Demon Lock, but like Demon Lock in its current form has, a couple Void Callers, 3 or 4 big threats, and then it's got like the imps and stuff like that. Or if it's, a lower scale Demon Lock, it's got Mistresses of Pain and maybe some Void Callers in there, but it's not all demons. There are a lot of, normal minions in there. So while this is like a 3 mana kind of 3 mana, 1 scale down Hellfire, it's not as consistent because maybe you're playing a guy who has demons. So in that case, it might not be that good. Also, the fact that you just don't run enough demons, that this probably will hit your side of the board, is problematic. But it could replace Hellfire. I mean, it's possible that Hellfire is just a little, like, you don't like hitting your own face a lot of the time and against aggro. Like, sometimes, you don't want to deal 3 damage to your face. So it's possible this could work out, but at the same time, then why wouldn't you just play Explosive Sheep? Because you're not playing enough demons for this to really work. So, it's kind of like a 3 mana Explosive Sheep, unless you have a ton of demons, and it's been proven that a full demon deck doesn't work. Same in Arena, it's again 3 mana kind of Explosive Sheep deal. Uh, unless you have a lot of demons, then its value goes up. But unimpressive card. Moving on to the Priest. Priest rare card, Resurrect, 2 mana, summon a random friendly minion that died this game. So that's, first of all, that is a really cool card. Like, there's no denying that. It's a cool card. Second of all, it's probably gonna, my voice cracked, it's probably gonna get value there. Because it's only 2 mana, so anything that it summons that it costs more than 2 mana will get more value. Immediately you think of a Blade Master, because a Blade Master, when it comes out, its Battle Cry deals 4 damage to it, but if you resurrect it, it'll be a 4/7, which is great. Even getting back a Dark Cultist with this is okay, but then you can think on the long scale of things. If Dragon Priest exists, and the other card makes me think it might, then you could get some really big things back on your board. Obviously, they don't have the Battle Cry, because they're just summoned, and there's the random factor, which is a little upsetting, but in decks where you're running a lot of higher cost minions, most of the time this will hit. Sometimes it'll get a Northshire Cleric, and that's a tough card to cut from Priest right now, but hopefully you'll get something bigger, and we'll see if people will run it. I'm sure they'll run it at the beginning. We'll have to wait and see if it's consistent enough. That's really the thing. It's like Unstable Portal. It was something that was like, oh, this is really good, but you know, it doesn't see play as much anymore because it's just not consistent. People like consistency, things they can control, and there are a very wide variety of outcomes with this card usually. So people might not like it, but it'll definitely be tried out, and I think it'll stick around in some decks, and perhaps in Dragon Priest. Speaking of Dragon Priest, the other Priest card, the 1 mana 2/1 Twilight Whelp, which is a dragon, and has a battle cry. If you're holding a dragon, gain +2 health. This card is great. If you'll put it in a dragon deck, basically. So if you put it in a dragon deck, you can expect to have a dragon in your hand at the beginning of the game, or you'll mulligan for one if you do have this card, and then you get a Zombie Chow without the drawback. And it has dragon written on it. So it's also a card that if it's in your hand, it can activate other dragon synergy cards. So a very powerful card in dragon decks. In Arena, probably not so much, but if you have a lot of dragons, it'll probably be good. This card will go in every Dragon Priest, and it actually is a card that, because it's so good in the early game, and because if dragons become a thing, there'll be a lot of control decks around. People will want to exploit that with aggro. This card can stop aggro a lot of the time. Also, I should go back and mention that Resurrect is probably a good card in Arena as well. You'll probably get value out of it, or at least normal value. But moving forward, we have Quick Shot, 2 mana, Hunter spell, deal 3 damage. If your hand is empty, draw a card. It's probably pretty good, just 2 mana, deal 3 damage. That is excellent. Like, that's Dark Bomb, basically. That is Frostbolt. That is the standard 2 mana, deal 3 damage class spell, and now Hunter has it. As if Hunter needed more ways to deal damage, but they have it. And they get the perk, if their hand is empty, they can draw a card. So this card is going in Face Hunter for the most part, I would assume. Because, you know, I mean, Face Hunter runs out of cards pretty quickly. So if you're top decking at the end, you get this, you do 3, then you top deck a bow, and then you say, like, this card will go in there, and it'll probably work. So it does have a place right now. I have to say I'm annoyed, because I don't think that Hunter needs more direct damage, but they got it. So Quick Shot it is, and it'll go in Face Hunter, and you can continue to be annoyed by them, and you can continue to hate this card. Unless you are a Face Hunter player, then I'm sure you're happy about it. Okay. Moving on to Druid. The Druid rare is a 9-drop called the Volcanic Lumber. It is a 7/8 taunt. And it reads, costs 1 less for each minion that died this turn. So this is a common theme around the new cards, costs 1 less for each minion that died this turn. It can be any minion, opponents, or yours. So the fact is that if you could count on like trading 1 minion into another minion, I think that's something that's reasonable to expect. So with these cards, you can expect that you'll be able to make them cost 2 less most of the time. So a 7 mana 7/8 with Taunt, simply not good enough. Even lower than that, it's not good enough because Big Game Hunter deals with it. Black Knight deals with it. Druid already has so many expensive cards, it can't fit anymore. There, I mean, maybe you put this in some sort of board clearing type Druid. So the idea, like this card doesn't belong in any type of current Druid. You put it in like something with Poison Seas and Starfall, and then, but even that, like you're not going to have enough things die in order to play this on that turn because it's so expensive. So I honestly think this card will just fall by the wayside. I don't think it's very good. In Arena, it's probably pretty good because big taunts, if they don't have a way to remove them, they have to run all their minions in, and you get good trades out of that stuff. But in Constructed, this card is probably never going to see any play, and it's very unimpressive. Okay, so the other Druid card is the uncommon 3 mana 2/2, but it reads choose one, transform into a 5/2 minion or a 2/5 minion. So when it says transform, it means that I don't think that this can get silenced. I'm not 100% sure of that. Don't quote me on it, but I'm pretty sure it'll be a 5/2 or a 2/5, and it can't get silenced away, that kind of thing. So 2/5 is really powerful. Right now, the best 3-drop stats with 2 attack is 2/4. There are 3/4s, and there is a 4/4, but there's a couple 4/4s, but they have pretty big downsides. So 3/4 neutral is, the best, and this is basically like that, except the stats are skewed to 5. You won't make this a 5/2 in most cases, because 5/2 is just too easy to deal with by so many things. So many things trade up into it. So many spells can get rid of it. It's only 1 stat higher than a Magma Rager, which is probably the worst card in the game. So a 5/2 is usually not good. It's kind of like how Ancient of War is either a 10/5 or a 5/10. Very rarely is it a 10/5. It's usually the other way around. And it's the same thing here. So just a neutral 2/5. Pretty strong, but the problem is that the 3-drop that Druids already run is Shade and Exoremus, which is a better card in Druid than this one. This is a little bit it's not actually any stickier probably, because it's better at facing aggro. So this is a better card against aggro, but I mean, why wouldn't you just put a Spider Tank in your deck? This has a little bit of flexibility, but you're not really going to be able to take advantage of it. And at least Spider Tank is a mech. I mean, if this transformed into a beast and worked with Druid of the Fang, then maybe things would be different. But as of right now, it doesn't seem to be the case. So this card probably won't see playing Constructed, but it's a very good Arena card. 2/5 for 3 mana in Arena is very solid. So you're going to be picking this a lot in Arena, and you're probably going to be happy about that. Okay, moving on to Shaman, their uncommon card. 4 mana, 3/6. Which is great stats. That is the Water Elemental stats. Battle Cry, gain 1 to 4 attack. Overload 1. So it's a 5 mana thing, but it's played on turn 4. So your turn 5 will be locked out, which right now is like an Azure Drake slot in Shaman. There are a lot of Dragon cards that are 5 mana too, but it's not that big a deal because this card is insane. It randomly gains 1 to 4 attack, so at minimum it's a 4/6 for 4. Let's call it 4. I know it has the overload, or it's a 7/6. Probably want this to be a 6/6 to avoid Big Game Hunter, but even a 5/6 or a 6/6, which is like the middle, that's insane for 4. They added this card, I think, because Shaman needed help. Similar to how Priest needed help, that's why they got 2 very powerful cards. Shaman needed help, they got Lava Shock, and they got this. And this is a hell of a card. First off, just to get Arena out of the way, you're going to pick this every time in Arena. This card will just win you games in Arena. It's going to be one of the best uncommons in Arena. Just way too powerful, way too difficult to deal with. Between this and Fire Elemental and Hex, those are the top 3 Shaman uncommons. It's going to be really tough to think about which card you'd want to pick over each other in that case. And all 3 of them are going to make Shaman a force in Arena, I think. Fireguard Destroyer in Constructed will see play. It is just way too threatening. And I mean, if they don't have a Big Game Hunter and this is a 7/6, my goodness. Like, if they don't have a way to get rid of it, that is so tough to deal with on turn 4. and with no downside, like just one overload. Like it doesn't have any of those major downsides. This card is like 3/6 was the water elemental, which is great stats already. Like if they just gave it a 4 mana 3/6, it would be enough. But a 4 mana, I don't know, 7/6/6/6/5, that is incredible. And the RNG in this doesn't even matter because the base, the 4 mana 4/6, is good enough to play. So everything on top of that is just gravy. This card's going to be everywhere. It's going to be an absolute force for Shaman. And it's good because they really did need it. Okay, moving on to the first Paladin card. 5 mana uncommon spell that reads, draw 2 cards, costs 1 less for each minion that die this turn. So basically, like I said, with all these cost 1 less for each mana that die, or each minion that dies, you can kind of like say like, oh, I trade something on the board and then I play this. So basically, it's an arcane intellect a lot of the time for Paladin. Paladin does have a lot of minions on the board though, so there are chances where you can get this off, and it can be even better than that. I think this card, I currently play a lot of Paladin. This card might replace my Acolyte because Acolyte sometimes just cycles itself for 1 card, and this card at least automatically gets 2, most of the time for the same mana, for 3 mana. Sometimes it'll get 2 for less mana. Now Acolytes can sometimes get 3 cards, but for the most part it doesn't. It's usually you can plan it out to get it for 2, but this card seems very powerful, and I think it'll work in a lot of Paladin decks. Okay, now next card for Paladin is incredible. The Dragon Consort, 5 mana 5/5 Battlecry. The next dragon you play costs 2 less. This solves the dragon cost too much problem. You can get your Ysera out on turn 7. It says the next dragon you play, so you just wait until turn 7. If you have the coin, you can coin it out. All those 9 cost dragons, this card can lower them to 7, which makes them really, really overpowered, because right now in 9 it costs your whole late game turn. Like it's just so difficult to get that out while also dealing with the board. You need to be like ahead already to get those dragons out on the board successfully. This card means you don't actually have to be. So Dragon Consort is a card that I think means that we are going to see Dragon Paladin, especially because Paladin does have ways to deal with aggro with shielded mini bots, and you'll throw in a couple zombie chows probably, and then you'll tail out your back end with dragons and Tyrion, and the deck will be powerful as hell. Not only that, but you'll have Solemn Vigil because you'll be able to clear boards. I think that the Dragon Paladin is something that might exist, and this card is really why though. Being able to, it's ramp, it's an innervate. Its Battlecry gives you an innervate for dragons, which is very, very good. So there's no doubt in my mind that we're going to see Dragon Paladin also be tried out along with Dragon Priest. Now, as for this in Arena, if you have a lot of dragons, it's much better. If not, it's a 5 mana 5/5, and you can live with that, so that's not that bad either. But yeah, and even in constructive, 5 mana 5/5, not that bad. I mean, look at like Lotheb, and I mean, even cards like Shield Maiden are 6 mana 5/5s, but they've made a big impact on the game. So 5/5 is a big body, and it's tough to deal with. So nothing to scoff at. Okay, so finishing it up, we have 3 legendaries. I'm going to start with the most hilarious, but the least viable. The Majordomo Executus. This card is a 9 mana 9/7, so another 9 mana. It's not a dragon, just a legendary. Death Rattle, replace your hero with Ragnaros the Fire Lord. So what this means is your hero, kind of like Jiraxxus works, becomes Ragnaros. And Ragnaros is a 8 health hero that has a 2 mana hero power, and the 2 mana hero power reads, deal 8 damage to a random enemy. Sound familiar? It's the Ragnaros power. So basically, the hero Ragnaros, pretty cool. I mean, let's just say that it is awesome. It's going to be so much fun. We're going to have a great time playing with this. That also being said, the card is terrible. First off, it is a 9 mana 9/7, which can be easily killed. So it's a big body, but just 9 mana 9/7, way too slow. It does have the Death Rattle though, so maybe that'll work. It won't, because when the death rattle goes off, suddenly you have a hero with 8 health, and that is such a dangerous position to be in. This card could never be run against, like, you could never play this against a druid, because you just automatically die. Or against a lot of mages, because they have the burn. You know, maybe against a priest. Like, you have to think about how many classes you feel comfortable being at 8 health against. And the only one I can think, only two, I guess. You could think of paladin and priest. You could feel alright if you have some taunts up. But most of the time, you do not feel comfortable at 8 health. And you can't heal up past that, you know, unless you can gain armor. That's basically it. But you can't heal up past that. So possibly warrior could use this. I mean, that's the one class it might work in. You play this, you know, you run it into something the next turn, it dies. Ragnaros comes out, and then you play your Shield Maiden, and you use your crazy hero power and kill everything. It'll be fun. You know, people will try it out. It simply isn't going to work because it's too gimmicky. But don't get me wrong, I love this card. I think it's just going to be absolutely hilarious. In Arena, take it if you want it, I guess. Probably won't, you know, want to take it. But if you just want to have a fun run with this card, you're going to have a good time, I'm sure. So, gimmicky card, but hilarious, and sure to see some Trolden videos with that. Second last legendary is a good one. Emperor Thaurissan is a 6 mana 5/5. Don't know if I pronounced that right, by the way. At the end of your turn, reduce the cost of all cards in your hand by 1. So, essentially, this card is, you know, 6 mana 5/5, not too great, but everything in your hand costs 1 less. So, consider that Dragon Consort I just talked about. Your next dragon costs 2 less. That's for 1 card, 1 time. If you have a big hand, my goodness, can you just flood the board after this? If this card survives for a turn, then everything costs even 1 less again. That's just so good. It's absolutely insane, actually. This card has to be removed. You play this and it has to be removed. But the great part about it is that it makes an impact when it comes on the board because it's at the end of your turn, not at your opponent's turn. So no matter what, if you play this card, you're going to get the value out of it. And that's why we're going to see this card being played in a lot of decks. Decks, primarily control decks. Not aggro won't need this at all. But decks that have a tough time getting everything out on the field that they want, this could be in Dragon decks because everything's so expensive. Decks that are very expensive will run this card to try and help out with that. Decks that have big hands a lot of the time, things like Handlock, will definitely love this because the more cards this hit, the greater the value it gets. So while the 6 mana 5/5 isn't great, 5/5, like I was saying, is a decent enough body that it might not get removed. And if this survives for 1 turn, you pretty well win. Just such a good card. In Arena, probably pretty good too. The body's not that great. It's not as good in Arena, but, you know, if you have a big hand in Arena, if you have a late game control deck, this can help you catch up. This is a catch-up card because, you know, if they're ahead on board and then, or like your board's like you're fighting and then you play this, suddenly you can play more cards per turn than they can. And that is just incredibly powerful thing in this game. So the reason why Mech Warper is so good. Being able to play things for less than they cost is such a tempo swing. This card's going to see play everywhere. And it's probably the best card in the set, in my opinion. Yeah, it's the best card in the set, in my opinion. Okay, the last card. Another dragon. 8 mana this time, which is good. 9 mana, a little too much in my opinion, but 8 mana, Cro-Magus. Whenever you draw a card, put another copy into your hand, say 8 mana, 6/8. So first things first, the stats are wonderful. The 8 health is so annoying, but it dodges the big game hunter, so, you know, very good. Also, this is a card that, while it doesn't make an impact immediately when it hits the board, which is what I like out of my big drops, unless they have unless they're really sticky, like Sneeze or something like that, it can, because you can combo this with some sort of card draw. So you can play this and then run your Acolyte in and get some card draw. You can play this and, you know, Novice Inventor, or yeah, Novice Engineer. I know that card doesn't see much play, but there are ways that you'll be able to use the 2 mana to draw cards. You'll be able to set it up. I know it might be difficult, but a lot of the time you'll be able to set it up so you're going to draw like an extra card on that turn. So whenever you draw a card, put another copy in your hand is so powerful. Basically like draw 2 cards. But one of them isn't from your deck, so you don't have to worry about fatigue. Not only that, but the reason why it's also more powerful is because some of the cards that you draw are cards you could have only put one of in your deck, like Sylvanas, and if you could, you'd probably put 2 Sylvanas in your deck, so that can even make this card more powerful. It's very slow, so that is a problem, but again, if you could find a way to like ramp this thing out, it could be really powerful because the body is going to stick around. Now, I mean, we haven't seen much of, um, goodness, what is that card? Foe Reaper. We haven't seen much of that card, which is an 8 mana 6/9 that has a great effect while it's out on the board. So it's questionable as to whether this will see play, but it seems to have a little more of an impact on the long term. So it's a very slow card, but it I think it'll see more play than Foe Reaper. I think we'll get, because it's a dragon, it'll work in the dragon decks. We'll get to be able to combo it a little bit with other things, which means it can make an impact when it comes out. I'm very iffy about whether this card is going to be viable. I think it's right on the fence. Like it could be or it could not be, and I can't quite commit to either side right now. In Arena, probably a good card. You're going to increase your card advantage overall, and it's going to be very difficult to get rid of. But the 6 attack is the reason why this card is on the fence. If it was 7, it wouldn't be. It would probably not be viable, but I am very excited about this whole set in general, because that's all the cards. And at the end of it, it looks like Dragon Priest and Dragon Paladin might be things, with all the dragon things we've seen, because their class cards specifically are powerful enough to drive it. It's similar to when mechs came out. You had to think about which class cards were powerful enough to drive the mech theme, and as it turned out, Goblin Blast Mage was the one that was powerful enough to drive that theme. So in this case, the Paladin cards and the Priest cards seem like the ones that will be able to support dragons, and they'll be able to fend off the early game, the aggression a little bit. So very excited for this to be released. It's going to be coming out a week at a time, so it's slowly going to creep up till we can finally make that crazy, crazy full dragon deck. Coming out in only 4 days. I couldn't be more excited. So thanks for watching. Also, I write at victorypoint.tv. I just wrote an article on Hearthstone. If you want to go check it out, my name is Patrick Sinclair over there. So yeah, check that out. And thanks for watching. I will see you guys next time, and have fun with Blackrock Mountain, because it seems like it's going to be a blast.